Welcome, everybody. My name is Donna Miller-Castman. I am very excited to be here with my two friends who have written a new book, Modern American Canasta. So first of all, my friend and business partner, Dara, and I created mahjong dice in 2019. We're now known as Modern Mahjong. Dara's been playing mahjong for over 10 years. She learned to play canasta and loves the game and the nuanced strategies involved. We expanded our mahjong business to include Modern American Canasta because it's a natural evolution for our women-owned business. Donna Miller-Small, a mahjong and canasta teacher in New York, has taught for over 15 years, has expanded to teach virtually during the pandemic, and has taught thousands of players. The three of us connected and got to know each other when Donna Miller-Small discussed advanced mahjong strategies on one of our Modern Mahjong Zoom talks. So I have a question for both of you. What inspired you both to write this book?
Donna, you want to go first?
Well, we connected as Donna Miller-Castman told you when I did the strategy webinar, and that was just about a year ago. So it's amazing that what's happened in less than a year. Dara and I figured out that we both played canasta, and in connecting over that, realized that there was a book to be written. And when I met these two wonderful women, they had this modern mahjong business, and I said it's a no-brainer. They should be modern canasta, and here we are. And I said, there's a book to be written. And Dara said, as we discussed canasta, let's write it. And we felt we had the tools and the know-how and the drive and the excitement to do it. And less than a year later, here we are with our book.
Exactly. And when we first got together, at first we kind of were thinking about doing the book. And then we said, well, I don't know if there's a need for it. And then every factor kept kind of aligning that there was such a need for the book. We kept getting the same questions, the same rule questions, and just confusion, because basically Modern American Canasta is kind of in a state of confusion. And we felt we had the tools. Donna's been teaching for over 15 years. I'm newer to the game, but really took to it and just loved the strategy and the rules. And we came up with a full color book that not only teaches how to play, but meets you wherever you are. So if you're a new player, if you're an advanced player, we have everything from soup to nuts to get you playing and improving your game. And what was really interesting about connecting virtually is kind of like how mahjong and canasta connect people. What is just incredible about the game is we want to be able to create a book, which we believe we did, that's similar to how the tune to Happy Birthday is sung all across the US, but everybody sings it maybe in different languages. We wanted to create a book that you can learn canasta and go and play anywhere. And right now there's a lot of regional games and differences. So we researched and we met with a lot of teachers, players, and we took polls and we put together a book that has widely accepted rules. And of course there's house rules that differ, and we'll get to that too. And we made something that everybody could pick up and open doors, because now they know how to play this wonderful game. And we are really proud of our full color book. It is completely comprehensive. It meets you where you are. So if you're just learning, terrific. The whole first half is the rules, scoring, which I know in the chat, everybody says that is the most confusing part, as well as explanations. We're really proud of our illustrations. We had an artist that just was able to take what we were trying to explain and create life with her drawings. And also the foreword by Greg Swain and Toby Salk, who wrote an incredible book for Mahjong, American Mahjong for everyone. And those of you, hi Greg, those of you who play real Mahjong, and we are not affiliated with any website, but those of you who play real Mahjong might not know that they now have real canasta. So that's another thing that Donna and I would do over the course of writing the book. And we would just connect and play online. And we'll get to it later, but we love the endorsement that we got from one of the co-creators of Real Canasta.
And I just want to jump in and say, this is about having fun. playing canasta should be a fun thing. We approached the book from day one that we wanted to have fun, and we want our readers and the canasta players that we are hoping to unite about having fun. So that's, we wrote a fun book, we think, a real joyful book, and we're going to share parts of that with you. But it's really about having fun. It's not about winning. It's a little bit of competition, but it's really that you sit down and you're engaged with what you're doing, and it's camaraderie, connecting with the people you're playing with.
So you talked a little bit about you guys meeting virtually online to write the book and eat meals virtually, but you know, Donna, you're in New York and Dara's in Florida. So how did the book come together?
Well, it came together because of the wonderful tools we have, the Google Docs, and we just the book took on a life of its own, and we thought it was going to be a little pamphlet, a flip chart, and here we have a 128-page full color book. So
that's the prototype of it.
yeah, ready to hit the shelves shortly. Did you want to expand more on that, Dara?
So also, but as we were writing, we realized how much more information there was to get out there. So we, and Donna, both Donnas can attest that I don't have great sleeping habits. So when I can't, a lot of times I just get lost in the World Wide Web. And there are such interesting articles out there, because a lot of people might say to you when you say you're coming to a Zoom on Canasta, oh, I played that years ago. This is Modern American Canasta. So if anybody mentions hand and foot, or if they mention freezing the pack with threes, the rules have changed and kind of been modified over the years. So this is a new way, but we didn't put all of it in the book. The history was so interesting. So on our Facebook group, we will have little factoids and little images. I mean, it was the hottest fad to sweep the country when it first got here. So
and it's surging now. I think we're seeing a resurgence. Like the 50s, it was the most popular game, more than mahjong. I don't know where it is in terms of that. And the wonderful thing too is that this is more men, even though men play mahjong. A lot of couples are coming to learn. It's a social thing, and so that's another aspect, of the game. And okay.
So Dara, you mentioned you're going to have more information on your Facebook group. So if people want to follow you on Facebook, what's the name of the group on Facebook?
the group is facebook.com/groups, and then it's Modern American Canasta. And then our YouTube is the same, Modern American Canasta, but you have to put the @ symbol in. YouTube kind of changed their naming. Thank you.
And we'll be putting up that information on screen as we proceed.
And Linda just asked, so we will be sharing this to our YouTube channel. So the YouTube, and we'll be posting the link on Facebook as well.
Right, and there was a question in the chat. This will be recorded and will be on our YouTube channel, and we hope you all will subscribe.
So for people who don't already play Canasta, can you two just share an overview of the game?
Yes.
Sure. Modern American Canasta is a game played with 4 people, 2 teams of partners. They sit across the table from one another, and we play with 2 decks of cards, including jokers. And you know what the good thing about this is, folks? Everybody has playing cards, and if you don't, you can go to the drugstore and buy them. There are all levels, all fancy types of cards, but most of you will probably have decks of cards at home, and you could start playing immediately. Anyhow, so we have wild cards. We have a total of 108 cards, 12 wild cards, and then 8 of each number. The teams score points by forming melds, and we're going to talk more about this later. And the goal basically is you try to make as many points by making canastas as you can, and you want to keep your competitors from scoring points. I also do want to say that the game has transitioned over the years, and we write about this in the history, but the interesting thing is the canasta that we play today is a transition of the original game that came to this country. The rules have changed, but what was really interesting, my co-author there, who was a real sleuth, and she found an article from Sports Illustrated, and the famous Charles Gorin, who is the iconic name in bridge and was for decades, co-authored the first book on canasta and termed the canasta that started to be played in the late 50s Joker canasta. And that has transitioned into what we are calling modern American canasta. And by the way, just for you mahjong players out there, jokers came from canasta. So there's a whole story about that, but we won't go there.
Okay, great. So now that the book is in print, Dara, what do you see for the future of the book, and what will you be doing next?
So kind of like how you and I do for mahjong, we love connecting people, and we feel like we are going to be your canasta hotline. So you'll see later, we have a great image that we'll share. So we're excited for the book launch. We're excited to connect players. If once you learn how to play, the beauty of playing by widely accepted rules is you could find groups in your neighborhood. You could find groups while you travel. And for those of you who are on facebook.com groups, mahjong community, that's our mahjong version. In Modern American Canasta, you could do the same. I live in South Florida. I'm looking for a game in the evenings, and I play Modern American Canasta. The other thing we're doing is connecting on Instagram. We have different posts, fun reels, different story, just ways to share a rule that somebody might not have even realized was a rule. I mean, Donna gets emails all the time post classes, and people ask a question that have been playing for 10, 15 years, and they just realized a different nuanced rule. So that's something about canasta that's so interesting, is that certain things just keep coming up and they're not answered.
So I have a question. Raising my hand. So say you want to find somewhere to play and you're by yourself. Does it matter? Do you have to know your partner? You know?
You don't. I mean, sometimes like there's canasta tournaments. There are some strategies. There's one main strategy. You're not allowed to talk to your partner. So when we say it's a partnership game, you can only do one thing, which is signaling, and you don't do it by talking. You do it by the sevens or aces that you put on the table. So I won't go into more detail and confuse people, but that's it. So
you don't pull your ear and
well, so I have to say, when I was at
or have body language, but as you play, you're going to get to know the person that's across from you. And if you're a first beginner, what I recommend and what I demo with is the online game. So you can go on and play immediately as you are learning. And we're going to talk more about that as we get into more details about the book.
And what's funny about it is when my mom told me about how much she loved canasta, she kind of whispered it to me, and she's like, is that okay? Because she knew Donna and I had this mahjong business. And I said, no, that's okay. And then she taught it to us before the pandemic. And I never really thought that I would enjoy a partnership game, but it's because I didn't want to like disappoint my partner or whatever. It's such a great way to learn the game. And a lot of times, David and I, my husband and I, during the pandemic, we would be in different rooms or at the dining room table, each on a computer having dinner. And one of us would say, are you starting the game or am I starting the game? And we would play, and people would say, you can't be partners with your husband. I think, Donna, didn't you say your parents were not bridge partners?
Well, my sister's on here. She could attest to that. Hi, Carol Levin. Our parents played bridge together, and the only thing they ever argued about was bridge. And my father was a student of the game. That's the gene I got, I guess. And the only time he would really get angry is sometimes at my mom at the bridge table, and then they wouldn't play together for a few weeks, and then they were back together playing it. But it was a wonderful pursuit. And you know what, folks? I'm teaching a couple in our community with my husband, and it's the gals against the guys. So there's all ways to do it. We want to have fun.
Well, exactly. So you had said we talked about signaling and talking. So I was at a tournament, a mahjong tournament, and I was able to compete in one of the little mini tournaments at night because our vendor table was closed. And this one woman, we were talking about canasta too, and she said, I would never play with my mom. And I said, why? And she said, there's one of the rules is you can't or you shouldn't keep more than 3 or more than 2 7s or 2 aces. And she said, because if my mom had 3 aces and it was close to me going out, she would go like this.
So it's really not permitted, and the game has really evolved from
She
when,
would not play with her. So
yeah, when our grandmothers played, it was a totally different game. And the beauty is that the game has not only survived but is thriving, and it has transitioned.
so sorry. I know we digress. To get back to your question, we see things in the future such as all the rule strategies, discussions, great videos. We have 2 videos up right now on YouTube. One is just introducing ourselves, and the other, we actually go over just how to play on real canasta, just our own little tutorial, nothing really that official, but just how to deal the cards and how to arrange them and how to show a special hand, have it set up the settings, see the rules. And then the other things we're doing are live talks, book tour, and speaker events. So Donna actually teaches mahjong and canasta at libraries in New York. So she already has events lined up. So
Full schedule ahead.
That's
Okay.
right.
So Donna, as a canasta teacher, how do you expect the book to help teachers and students?
Well, the book has helped me in writing it. I have become a better teacher. When you have to describe some of the complicated procedures of this game, you have to be very clear about it. And we did a ton of edits. We kept thinking we were done. My sister used to say, oh, you're editing again. I used to say, oh, we're finished. No, we're editing again. And but we really came up with what we think is a very clear, easy way to understand learning this game. And when I teach, I've had handouts that I've updated,
I was going
over
to
the
say, I
years.
have your handouts. I attended your classes online
I
Those
remind her.
I have to
Probably
tell you,
2
those
years ago.
those handouts, I've heard from friends and relatives who have been, somebody went to a wedding in Virginia and they saw another couple they were playing with, and my handouts came out at the table. The handouts only can hold a certain amount of basic information, and the book extends what I can give out. And when I teach 4 or 5 or 6 lessons in a series, I can't cover the in-depth information that we have shared in this book. So it's not only helped me, we hope it will help teachers. One of the things we have on the list to do is are going to run webinars to teach teachers how to teach, to people how to teach this. It's one thing to teach, it's another thing to teach with the best practices. And that's what one of our goals is. So, yep.
That's
And
great.
all those questions that come that I get are covered in our book, and will be a venue on our Facebook page to have chats and discussions. So here's a sneak preview. I know you've all been waiting to see the
Yeah,
book.
can you share in more detail the format of the book?
Here we go.
So here is our cover, and obviously you know our names now. And we have a foreword by Greg Swain and Toby Salk.
And I talked a little bit about the history of the game. We came up with this illustration. By the way, we have an illustrator who did fabulous and creative illustrations, but my co-author could be a graphic designer on the side. Everything that's not an illustration, a chart, a graph, this picture that's on the screen, she created.
Wait, Dara, Elaine asked if you'd show the cover of the book again.
Oh, sure.
So if
We
you
could
could just
back up for a minute.
So
gonna
Modern
share
American Canasta, the complete guide.
And it's
And-
only available on modernamericancanasta.com.
Right, and we have pictures of the book on the website for ordering it. We're gonna give you more in-depth pictures and insights as we unveil parts of the book that we have not shared before. Okay.
So this is one page that we really enjoy doing. So these are some of the examples of the fun graphics that Dana, our artist, drew for us. And we wanted, when you're reading a book and you're trying to teach yourself a game, a whole page of just black ink isn't going to get into your brain. You need to break it up. You need to have things to pop out. So we did 4 different things. One of the ways we did is, if you see in maroon, we called it our maroon line whenever we were talking. That was something that would just either be something we wanted to stress that we already had above, or maybe didn't fit in something above and we just wanted to point it out. Then the other 3 things that we do are card cues, which are adorable little card cue jester who looks like he's auditioning for Saturday Night Live. And then we have canasta sizes, which that was fun to come up with. We just wanted the queen to be like stretching her mental muscles and making ideas. And then what's the deal? And we also have rhyming catchphrases, which, we made little poems that just could get into your head and just remind you of key lessons that you don't want to forget. So we wanted to be able to make a book that as you're reading and as you're playing, you could have with you and you could feel like we're there with you. We're not just saying, here's your book, go off on your journey, but we're with you on the step of learning. Or if you already know how to play, increasing your quickness and efficiency at scoring, and also increasing your strategy.
Suzanne has a question in the chat. Will you have a large print version of the book?
I saw that. We have an 8.5 by 11 book.
Yeah.
And it's with it's not a large size print, but the point that we have made it an easy to read book. So I don't think you're going to need a large print because the book is already that, we feel. So wanted to go on to one of the things that we that makes the book interesting. We have a what's the deal, and that's Dara and I discussing maybe a rule, an interpretation, a strategy of what we think about it, how we look at it. And so you're getting an insight into our thought process and some of the discussions that we had while we were writing the book, which were many. And we'd say, you know what, this needs to be a what's the deal. So we did that up till one of the last edits. And so
it's interesting. Well, sorry to interrupt, but because the game is so fluid up until now, and there's been so many rule changes, a lot of the things that I take for granted, because I learned more recently, to Donna were like revolutionary changes to the game. So, I learned starting on a Mel base of 5, which is what this what's the deal is. And if you don't play yet, you'll learn about that later. And to Donna, that was something that's newer. So we had a whole discussion about the strategy. When I went to a tournament and the Mel base was lower, in my mind, I said, oh my God, I've never even played that way. It had to make me think of a whole new way of thinking. So that's why our what's the deal gives the reader both of our input on something.
Right. There's been not a lot of changes, but some changes over 10 years that I'm teaching. And that's having the past knowledge, but it's the fluidity of the game also. Okay.
Wait, so Suzanne asked, was hand and foot a canasta game? And I think Dara talked about it in the beginning.
It's a version of it. It's I've played it. My sister and I learned it together. Actually, we were taught it. I guess it's an offshoot of canasta. It has some of the elements, but it has the trappings of canasta, but it isn't canasta. But here's the table of contents, folks. Look at all these chapters.
So this is actually 2 pages that we fit on 1 page for tonight. And if you want to learn the left page, part 1, part 2, all the way through part 5, those are the new player, how to learn. We start with the very beginning, how to set up the game. We actually tell you to skip the setup of the game until you are familiar with the game, because whoever came up with the way to deal the cards, it's like doing the hokey pokey. But we have great illustrations that clearly explain how to do them. And then, just like we said before, we meet you where you are. So if you already know how to play, then the strategies, we have 14 chapters on strategies. We know that there is no central rule yet. So that's why we have a whole chapter on house rules. And one of our appendices, we actually have Appendix F, is just a blank page for your notes. So if you read the book and you say, I love this book, but Donna and Dara got it wrong about the scoring for this, you could have a note and say, when our group plays, we score this special hand this way. So we're not saying you can't have house rules. We share what we believe the generally accepted rules are, and then how recognize other house rules. I think there's only one that we really said we don't agree with, which was wipeout scoring.
Yeah, and you know what? Our goal is to unite our community. Mahjong's been around and was codified by the National Mahjong League. The American Duplicate Bridge League has been around for decades. We don't have that for Canasta. And we're not trying to be an authority league, but we want to unite our community so that when you walk in, if you're visiting Aunt Susie in Arizona, and you're going to play Canasta with her, you can sit down and play pretty much the same game. So this is an example of a visual, and it's one of the trickiest parts. It's our chapter 15. We rewrote this chapter a lot up until the going to press practically. And again, my brilliant co-author was able to put visuals in. And it's an example of how we explain a very complicated part of this game.
I think there's players who have been playing a very long time that still don't get this concept. So I think
Probably the most asked. Chapter 15 was one of the most challenging chapters, and I think we finally got to jello of what we wanted after many different transitions of it.
So in the beginning of this Zoom, I saw Heidi had said that scoring confuses a lot of people. So actually, rather than just a typical score sheet in our book, which this is what a typical score sheet would look like, we started from the very basics and we did a worksheet. And we just broke out each section of scoring into its own little section. It makes it much simpler. And if this is how you like to score, you don't need to do the score sheet. You could stay on the worksheet. And oh, you know what? One thing that I did skip before when we were talking about our different things with our canasta sizes, our little queen that's working out throughout the book, what we do is we will have that little logo and she is telling you, okay, now go get a deck of cards and score this hand and tell us what number you come up with, or practice doing melds. So it applies actual card play while you're doing a book. So you're actively learning. I mean, everybody learns in different ways. This makes it more active. You're not just reading, you're getting involved. So.
Okay, and we're not going to go with special hands is a more advanced layer of the game. Again, my partner created a beautiful visual. I've had handouts with writing. This makes it come to life and is just user-friendly. So, and we have a little canasta size at the bottom, an example of something Dara shared to learn by doing.
And just silly things like on the bottom, the special hands, the same number or picture cannot be used in more than one grouping. Those are just examples of things that we remind people throughout the book of important rules that kind of maybe get lost along the way. So we have several different appendices. Here's our glossary. Since the game kind of starts at the beginning, but certain words you need to know that aren't really addressed yet. So as you're reading, if you get to a word that we haven't explained yet, you could flip back to the glossary.
And did we think we were going to have 7 appendices? I mean, we thought we'd have a glossary and I don't know, but here we are. So we've capsulized the most crucial concepts of canasta. And that is going to be helpful, particularly for beginners, no, but after, hopefully, you're going to read the book more than once as a beginner. And for people who are more seasoned player, it's going to help you on what the most important concepts are. So we're calling them crucial canasta concepts.
Is there controversy in canasta about dead hands? I saw like in mahjong.
Really funny. Somebody posed a question, and basically it was like, what would happen if someone did something against the rules? And there is no equivalent. So we actually thought of what the consequence should be. So it was a really interesting kind of hypothetical. So no, there is no equivalent.
And Donna, it's a much more nuanced game than mahjong. There's more twists and turns. The game can take different directions. You think you're winning, and then you're not winning. And I think in that way, it's more complex, but sometimes more interesting than mahjong can be.
Well,
Not that
we play with my parents, and my mom's a wonderful player, and she goes, I promise you, I'm really good at this game. And every time David and I have played, we've won every time, and they almost had us last week. And my dad might have too many sevens in his hand, and we won. So it's definitely a nuanced game. You could have the exact same cards, because it's not similar to tennis, but it's different rounds, and then you build up, and then you have to reach 8,500. So one game, you're meeting your friends to play. One game could last 3 hours, or one game could last 45 minutes, and then you play another game. So it just all depends on the game. But you could have the exact same hand cards in one round than the other. But depending on where you are in the game, you might do something risky one time and you might not another time. So it really depends on where you are and your strategy.
And there is a certain amount of luck, but I believe there's more skill involved in canasta at the more advanced level. So here we have,
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Here we have Modern American Canasta streamlined. So we've taken all the rules in that first that first 50 or 60 pages, and we've condensed them. And this will answer people's questions when they're at a table. When they're playing, they can pull out the book instead of emailing us, which is always fine, or posting a question. But when you're sitting at the table, this will answer a lot of questions.
Yeah. We had a question. You talked about 8,500.
Yeah, you know what?
Yeah, I thought a dream hand gets 8,500
Yeah.
points.
You know what, Heidi? We looked at that goes into special hands, and it's a different layer of the game. Dara and I spent a lot of time looking. This is the diversity of this game, and that is a level of the game that is played by more advanced players. And we looked long and hard at what we felt were the best points per hand, and that's game, set, and match. We did not feel was in the spirit of good competition.
It's
and
a
partnership. So that's an old score. It's not in commonplace, and we did not, we included it, but it was not a game, set, and match. And we'll go on. And any specific questions, we'll stick around at the end to ask. We really want to let the new people who are first coming really get a flavor for the game and what we've written. So here we are. I'm often asked, what do you do when you don't have 4 players? Well, you play with 2 or 3 or 5 or 6. And in our book, we have described how to do that in person. Of course, the great thing about being online is you can play with any amount of players. And we met up during COVID, a group, and we played virtually, with 4 or 3 or 2 people. Anyhow, so we do have information on what to do when you don't have 4.
And then this, we have our companion card. So Donna had one that she would hand out to her students. We have one, and in the book, what we actually did is page 112 in the book is the full-size companion card. And then we also have another page. I know some people would never think of cutting a book. If you want to leave it in and you don't want to cut it out, we understand. But it's a smaller version of it with scissor marks, and you could cut it out. You could bring it to your local FedEx, Kinko's, and get it laminated. And it just has reminders. As much as you learn, sometimes there's just certain times that you say, wait, what score am I on? What's my open? These are just key reminders. And my dad was so cute the other day. He said, oh, wouldn't this be cheating if I had this? I said, no, you're allowed to have it. There is no rule against the score. Whoever takes score has their score sheet, which usually has little tips on it, and everybody could have their guide next to them. So it's just going to be really helpful companion card to have with you.
And I love that it's a beautiful visual. The card that I've been handing out is an old, not so good looking card. And I will, again, that thing shows up. People tell me they see my card, they go to New Jersey. But this is a beautiful thing to cut out and laminate and keep next to you, particularly for newbies, but even for more seasoned players. It's got information on there that's going to be at your fingertips. And hopefully the book will be in a tote bag at your fingertips too.
So here's the back of the book. And we got wonderful reviews for the people who saw the pre-print version. And we are just thrilled. I mean, finally a book. This is from Ronnie, who created Real Canasta. Finally a book that has all the information you need to learn how to play canasta and improve your game, with clear visuals and detailed explanation. This is a definitive guide on how to play canasta the modern American way. I wish this was available when I was learning canasta. Thank you for providing an excellent resource that will share the joy of canasta with players around the world. So we were just thrilled. And we actually, for the most part, our rules coincide with Real Mahjong, Real Canasta. They actually do have different scoring for some of the special hands than we wound up on. But overall, our rules are very similar.
And we also, Linda Feinstein, who teaches in Manhattan, we talked to her and gathered information and bounced ideas off of her. And the last endorsement is from Elaine Wolf, who was with us tonight, a friend, an author, and a canasta player. She was a wonderful source of a reader for us and wrote us a beautiful endorsement. And we have, we're going to answer your questions in a few minutes. I see there's a lot of questions about the special hands, and those who are interested can certainly stay on and we'll answer all of them.
Okay, so I mean, I love the illustrations. They clearly explain complicated issues because I'm a newbie. How are you going to continue the Canasta hotline for players?
So we have several channels to continue to connect with players. We're going to do our Facebook group, our YouTube channel, and we want to connect just like how Donna and I have done for Mahjong community. We want to connect and unite the Canasta community. We want to make sure that people could play regardless of what region they're in. I mean, there's a lot of people. Donna Small goes from New York to Sarasota, and it would be really nice if you could play the same way wherever you are. So that's something that we really feel like our guidebook can open doors to a new hobby, and that we will be, we really thought this kind of emphasized the Canasta hotline visual, emphasized that we will be there. I mean, not at a, what is it? Switchboard, but online. I was like thinking not at a switchboard, but online in any method that you could, you know, reach out.
And we had fun with this because we were brainstorming. If you go back to Lily Tomlin, those of you who are old enough to remember Ernestine, Ernestine, we started brainstorming about how to take this forward. We came up with the Canasta hotline, and I remembered Lily Tomlin. And so we had fun doing this. And I think it's just a good way to remember that we are a click away. It may not be a telephone call away, but it may be a click away from helping to answer questions.
Yeah.
It's not the end of the journey, it's the end of learning, but it's the journey is going to continue, and we're going to be right there with our community.
That's great. So Donna, remind people where they can buy the book.
You can buy the book on modernamericancanasta.com. We're going to talk a little bit more about the book here, and about learning canasta for those who are not familiar with it. So Dara has done an interesting PowerPoint for us. So we said it's an exciting game played with 4 people. It has aspects of rummy. It was invented by bridge players who combine bridge and rummy, 2 teams of partners, 2 decks of cards. We talked about making melds and canastas, and we're going to go on from here.
So a meld is a group of 3 or more identical cards. So if you play rummy, you could have runs in rummy. Other than one special hand, melds are only 3 queens or 3 jacks. A meld can be groups of identical number of pictures. The suits don't matter. So you could have 2 8 hearts in this same meld. Melds can be pure, which means they have no wild cards, or they could be mixed, which means they could have up to 2 wild cards. And a canasta is when you reach exactly 7, no more. And they could be just like melds, they could be with or without wild cards. Do you want to continue?
The points are cumulative. The goal is 8,500 points. Sometimes if we just want to play for 3 hours, the team who has scored the most points wins. You know, some people play for money. I haven't been in that circumstance. This is a game that's usually just played for the fun of scoring points. We do have a section in the book about how to play for money. I know Dara's mom and those folks do, but
she won $9. I mean,
Wow.
It reminded me, I don't know if anybody on here saw the Modern Family episode when they were playing mahjong when they went to visit Florida, and Cam saw someone cheating. She had a joker in her pocket and she put it on the table. And he said, I don't mean to stir the pot, but she's been cheating. And the woman said, oh, she's won $12 from me. So it's not mistakes. It's more of just you settle the difference in points, and we have it figured out in the book.
And there was a woman who I met the other day at a game day at our community, and she said she played with her grandmother and she always kept score, and the grandmother always won. So how about that? And there's specific rules about aces and sevens. They're one of the trickier things. We explain it pretty succinctly in the book.
Well, Phyllis Mosier has a great question. How long do you think it would take to learn canasta?
You taught
I
me.
think it's like anything else. You know what, folks? It's not rocket science, but it's like learning a new language. And when you learn a new language, you've got to learn the words first. You've got to put sentences together, and then you're or learning a dance. You've got to learn the dance steps. And once you know those steps, you don't have to look at your feet. You put the music on. So it really depends on how much effort you want to put in. I teach ideally a series of 6 lessons. And by the end of 6 lessons, people usually are ready to play.
An online play. I mean, really, because Phyllis Mosier, who just asked, that's my mom. She taught us pre-pandemic. I liked it, but then we really couldn't go during the pandemic. David and I would just play a lot. And that's when the light bulb went on. And actually, I introduced Donna Small to my mom with a question that we had. And it was one of the questions that I did a visual for, because it was one of the hardest things to learn, which is when you pick the pack of cards, how does that score? How do your points work? And it's just one of those games that you could enjoy it right away. But then when you first learn the rules, you enjoy it. And as you increase your skill, I mean, it's going to sound really geeky, but there was one time when David and I were playing, we're like, we are not turning off the computer until we win. And we just sat there playing and playing.
And you know what? It's a different experience when you're playing on the computer with the bots. They're programmed. But you know what? It's pretty darn good, folks.
You can play with live players too. You could have friends online. You could, yeah.
True. Okay, next slide.
Once you learn the rules and you understand the scoring, that really reinforces key concepts. So as Heidi said, the scoring kind of does seem like somebody was at a restaurant, maybe having a few too many drinks when they came up with the game, because it is a little confusing. But once you understand why the scoring is the way it is, then you understand the key concepts.
Okay, good. We're getting to the end. Again, take a screenshot of this. This is how to find us. Our YouTube, our Instagram, our Facebook. We're your Canasta hotline. Thank you all for coming. We're going to answer some questions now that are in the chat. This will be up on YouTube for folks that joined late or want to see a replay. So
yeah, we'll open it up to some questions we got in the chat. Heidi asked, so your initial meld, you play with 5 cards, why, as opposed to the traditional 3?
You know what, Heidi? We took a poll, and it's one of the most important bases.
Wait, Donna, hold on. Before you get there, was she saying meld base or meld? Because she might be. I think she means we had a post and talked about the meld base.
Right. I think that's what she asked about.
Okay.
We'll take. I'm gonna take it as it's the meld base.
You said meld base, yes, meld base.
Yeah. And again, if you haven't played Canasta, it's a game of melds. We actually took a survey and talked to many people, and a 5 pure meld base is the most widely played way. So that's one of the things in the book. We have said there's different meld bases. I know my friend Elaine in California plays differently, but a meld base of 5 is, and that came in later. When I first started teaching, there wasn't that rule, but that is the most widely played meld base. Okay. Other questions up there?
If anybody wants to raise their hand and ask the question, we could unmute them. So somebody asked, do you have the 2 decks have to match? Most people that I've played with will have 4 decks and they'll use 2 match. So usually a lot of times if you buy the nicer, thicker plastic cards, it comes with like a pink deck and a blue deck. So you buy 2 of them and then you use 2 pink and 2 blue. They don't have to. I mean, I just think that it depends. I mean, similar to like if a tile that you're playing with in mahjong has a chip, you might remember which tile it is. So you might be able to get some information about the cards, knowing what color somebody has on their rack. So I personally would want to use 2 of the same color backs, but I think Donna, you don't mind, right?
No, I don't mind. I've played with all kinds of different cards and it works. Oh, and there's accessories, there's card holders, there's lucite trays. But I did want to say, somebody asked a question about signaling with aces and 7s. We write about that in the book. That is one of the most crucial strategies of canasta. We do have a zip code hand. Somebody asked about the special hand, the zip code hands. We have the special hands that most of you who know them play with. They're on the online game. Our point values may be different, but we have the most widely played special hands, and there are a lot of them. So there is.
Joyce had a question. Is a special hand the same as a splash hand?
What a splash is that you can open a splash. A special hand is 14 cards. It's 14 cards that fit a predetermined pattern. So it doesn't have to be the exact cards usually, but it's a pattern. A splash is when you're opening. So for those of you who haven't played canasta yet, but you've played rummy, when you have to get a certain number of points to put your tiles down, you need a certain number of points to go out and open, or not go out, to open. And a splash is when you have in your hand a full canasta, a full natural set of 7 of the same card or 7 wild cards. So that's what a splash is. So it's 2 separate things. There's special.
And it's an example of how people are misinformed and don't have the right language and descriptions of what the game is.
So when it comes to zip code, so that's actually one of our what's the deals. We were going back and forth, and the zip code is, for those of you who haven't played yet, it's when you have a pattern of 4 of the same, 3 of the same, 3 of the same, 2, 2. So it's 4, 3, 3, 2, 2, which adds up to 14. And there's been times where I'm playing in person or online where I could be set and just waiting for one of 3 cards. And for the most part, when we're playing, I would say in 80% of the rounds that somebody gets a special, it's a zip code. So we thought, it's a partnership game. I'm not saying anything's wrong with special hands. That's what I immediately look for when I look at my cards. I love getting special hands. But if it's a partnership game, we felt like if you could finish the game that quickly because you got 2 special hands and then one other round, it kind of takes away from the partnership aspect of it. So that's why we lowered the value. And that's also why we don't have a hand that completely ends the whole game. We don't have any one hand that's worth the value to win, because we just felt that that took away the partnership aspect. You could disagree with us. We are all for discussion. And that's why the back of the book, we have a page that says reserved for my notes. And in that you could say our special hands are worth 2,500 points, and that's fine.
And there was a question in the chat about our Facebook group. They went there already.
It's
There's a private and a public group.
Yeah, I tagged it back, it's public.
Yeah, we're a public group. You should please join us. We'd love to have you.
And then
Good question. Good
yeah,
question.
so one of the questions was, I don't know if you answered it, your views on signaling for aces and sevens.
Yeah,
So
she
this
did.
is
You know what?
one of
I don't want to go into that. It's a part, well, what I did say about it, it's a crucial part of the game. And if you want to play good strategy, you should really learn and use that. And talk to your partner about it. Just like in the days of bridge that I never really played, it's a partnership game. You agree on certain things. So that would be something to discuss, but it is an important strategy to keep your opponents from getting a lot of points. And we talk about it in the book.
Yeah.
So,
And then this is interesting. We had a question from Heidi, which she said, are you allowed to pick the first card to make your special? That's actually a perfect example of in our chapter on house rules. Our rule is no, you have to get the special hand from within, but we do recognize that there's some people that if there's only one card on the discard pile and that's the 14th card they need, they recognize that that's a special hand. So
Right.
there's all different house rules that we acknowledge and discuss. There's some really debatable ones that, you know, people really feel strongly about. And that's why we put them all. And then we also have a frequently asked questions chapter where it's the same emails that Donna gets all the time, or while I would be playing with David and I would just sit there and take out my phone and make notes or text Donna and say, we need to add this. This is a good question. So it's things that came up a lot. And I think it'll be very helpful for players.
You know, there's a lot of the comments are about the scoring. And from my standpoint, Dara had a few couples over and was teaching us an initial lesson. And my husband was like, who came up with these rules? Who came up with the scoring? And got very frustrated. So, you know, hopefully the book will help with the scoring.
Yeah, that's why we did a very simplified worksheet, and it just really, you know, KISS, keep it simple, stupid.
Right. And teaching my husband and friends, we test drove that worksheet, and we've really hopefully our goal was, and we tried really hard to have as accurate of a book as we can, and as well tested of your exercises, the worksheet, and we're still going to be a work in progress, but I think it's great questions. I think it's wonderful. So many people have come to hear about our book. We hope you will buy it and share it with your friends and family. And this is just the first of many more webinars and more information about Canasta. Did you ladies want to tell the mahjong community about what's coming up?
Yeah, absolutely. I just had a question though. So for people that pre-ordered the book, when do you expect it to be shipping out?
March 31st.
March 31st.
That's our.
So we will be very busy.
Yes, we have a lot of books to be shipping out, and we have a great team here. We are a team of 3 people who have just want to expand all the wonderful things.
I do have friends other than named Donna Miller, but you know.
But I think it's just a wonderful evolution of what Donna and Dara started such a few years ago. They're a really entrepreneurial set of people who have achieved a lot in a short amount of time. And I like smart, successful women, and these are two right here.
And it started with a cookbook. Dara and I wrote a cookbook in our children's middle school for a fundraiser. So we've worked together a long time.
You never know where the threads are going to take you. I see Greg Swain is here. She and I connected. Greg is one of the co-authors of the most iconic current day mahjong book that I have on my shelf that I recommend to have a friend that's just teaching people. She has to have the book. And isn't it wonderful to be connected virtually? I mean, it was certainly a silver lining of the pandemic. So we're all together here, and how wonderful.
So we're going to jump back to mahjong, which was our baby. Donna Miller Small is going to be back with us for another Zoom panel. The next one is on Wednesday, March 29th at 7 p.m. Eastern. It's going to be a Zoom panel on tournament play. So it'll be Donna Miller Small, Linda Sachs, Rhonda Brooks, Jennifer Clayton, Barney Galasio, and Barbara Bear. So we hope you can join us then. We also are going to have a Zoom card review with Barney Galasio Tuesday, April 4th, 2023 at 7 p.m. Eastern. We all hope we have the new card by then. The new cards are expected to be around March 31st also. Then we're excited to have Michelle Frizzell is flying down to Fort Lauderdale to join us at a luncheon at the Fort Lauderdale Bridge Club on Sunday, April 23rd. So we're going to have a lunch, she's going to lecture, and we're going to have play and food, and it's our kickoff to our Alzheimer's fundraiser. And then finally, we're going to have another virtual vintage, which we always enjoy having, Wednesday, May 10th at 7 p.m. Eastern with Teresa Benassi, Shirley Hannick, Karen Robertson, Toby Salk, Greg Swain, and Tony Watson. So I hope you can all join us. You can find all of these on our website, modernmahjong.com, or in our Facebook groups, Mahjong Community or Modern Mahjong. So we hope you can join us.
Thank you all for taking time to join us.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Night.
Bye for now.
Order your book now.
Go online, find us. Thanks for coming.
Thanks.